Coming up on iOS today, Rosemary is out, but don't worry, I've got a great guest to join us to talk about getting prepared for that next iPhone. Stay tuned.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
This episode of iOS Today is brought to you by Blockfy. Blockfy's Bitcoin Rewards credit card lets you earn an unlimited 1.5% back in Bitcoin on all qualifying purchases, plus a bonus of $25 in crypto after you make your first purchase. Sign up today at blockfy.com/iOS. And this podcast is supported by AT&T. If there are friends and family members you haven't talked to in a while, don't worry, it's never too late to reconnect. To help, AT&T is offering deals on the latest smartphones. It's not complicated. Everyone deserves something new. So AT&T is giving new and existing customers their best deals on every smartphone, even the latest ones. Restrictions and exceptions may apply. Visit att.com for details. Hello, and welcome to iOS Today, the show where we talk all things iOS, tvOS, HomePod OS, so many OSs that sometimes I forget the list. It is all the OSs that Apple has on offer, and I am one of your hosts, Mikah Sargent.
I guess I'm your other host for today, but I'm not Rosemary Orchard.
You're not. You're Dan Moren, and we're happy to have you here with us today. We've got an Apple event kicking off later today, and Rosemary was very sad that she accidentally scheduled her vacation for around the same time as an Apple event. Tisk, tisk. It's like all of September, you never know, but it's coming at some point.
Gotta block it out.
So I thought that today would be a great day, given that this is typically Apple's iPhone event, the event where we will learn about the next version of its sort of flagship product. And we also get a little bit of understanding of when the next version of Apple's various OSs are going to be coming out. And so I thought it'd be a good time to talk about how to, if you are planning on getting a new phone, how to prepare your iPhone for that, how to back up your iPhone, how to back up your Apple Watch, because there could be one of those too, and sort of how to make sure that everything's ready to go when it comes time to get a new phone. But I also think this is a good time to talk about planned obsolescence and try to sort of calm people's concerns, because I don't know about you, Dan, but I tend to be the proxy for Apple among my family. And so I always sort of get this aggressive response around the time the new iPhone is launched, where someone's saying, you know, my iPhone started slowing down right when the new iPhone came out, and that's your fault, essentially, is what it feels like.
That's right. You did it. You slowed them down. For some reason, I don't know what you exuded an EMP field. It's on you.
Yes.
Sorry.
So let's start there. Let's talk about slowdowns and kind of what is general practice whenever we're dealing with slowdowns, but also I want to give a little bit of kind of an explanation too, because Apple for quite some time has done a really good job of updating and supporting older devices. So even iPhones of yesteryear oftentimes will be listed among the phones that get the next version of iOS. But with that comes two things that you have to understand. One, unfortunately, as much as it wants to be and as much as we want it to be, our battery technology is not perfect. And so over time, the battery inside of your phone gets old, and as it gets older, then it doesn't make as much battery as you need. And not only that, but it also changes kind of I don't want to go into the terms because I know I'll end up getting them wrong whenever it comes to voltage and wattage and all those things. But essentially, you don't have as much available at a given time. So there are performance hits that happen whenever the phone is trying to sap up some power real quick for some sort of processing. So you'll get slowdowns because of that as the battery ages. But then there also is the understanding that as the OS advances, you may miss out on some of the features that you have, and you may miss out on some of the kind of performance heavy stuff that happens in the next OS. But when someone kind of comes to you and says, hey, my phone is acting weird, I don't know what it's doing, and this is your fault, Dan, what do you typically recommend?
Oh, first I say it's not my fault. I never touched your phone. You can't prove anything. No, I think there's a few steps that you kind of take. You start with, all right, let's shut the phone down. Let's restart it. Let's see if something's currently going on that might be a problem. And then you can kind of look at some other stuff that might be more sort of long-term issues. Is the phone running out of storage space, right? That happens to a lot of us after a few years. We've downloaded a bunch of apps. We've downloaded music and video. All of a sudden, we don't realize it, but our phone's only got like 100 megabytes of data of storage left. And that can also cause a performance slowdown because there's not enough room on the disk for the operating system to do stuff that it needs to do just for general maintenance stuff. So that's another good thing to look at is you can go into your iPhone settings and sort of see what's taking up all that room on your device and flush out stuff that maybe you don't need anymore. Other than that, I think the sort of stuff that you want to look at too is generally what is the age of this device? What else might be happening with a device of that age? Like you said, a lot of times these slowdowns are expected after several years. You know, if somebody comes to me with an iPhone 6 at this point, is like, my iPhone's not really performing the way it used to be. It's like, well, yeah, it's several years old, right? the state of the art has moved on, and your phone has sadly not moved along with it. And as you said, Apple's done a really good job at keeping its older devices compatible with the latest OS. That doesn't always mean that they run it at peak efficiency. Mm-hmm. So in some ways, it's great because it does extend the longevity of phones, but it is also somewhat of a challenge because it means that you're trying to run sort of the newest OS on these older phones, and it sometimes can chug along when you're doing that. So that's the kind of case where it's like, well, can you cut down on what maybe you're working on, what you're doing with this phone, or is it really time to invest in a new phone at that point?
Yeah, I think that word you used, it makes it compatible with the new version,
right?
But it doesn't necessarily mean that just because it's compatible that it's going to be super efficient or super good at working with the new phone. So yeah, I think that that kind of covers the grounds. I did want to talk about you can on newer devices, if you launch the Settings app, and then we scroll down until we get to battery, and then we can choose battery health. And within battery health, you've got some information here. You've got maximum capacity of the battery, peak performance capability, and then something called optimized battery charging. So I want to go through all three of these things. Maximum capacity, essentially this is a timer that gets started as soon as the iPhone gets turned on. And so it is looking at the health of the battery over time, and it is looking at how the battery's capacity has changed over time. So it kind of goes, okay, I know that when I first started, this is the capacity that I had. This is how much my battery was able to charge. But as your phone ages and the battery inside of it ages, then that number starts to go down. So you can see that when I got this iPhone, it was at 100%. Now it's at 90% capacity. So charging it completely full, I've lost 10% of the battery life over time. That's, again, because of the state of the way the battery charges works. Now, if this number is rather low in your iPhone, then you may have a battery health issue, and it would be worth looking into in terms of going to, setting up an Apple support session and potentially looking at getting a new battery for the phone. The next thing is called I can't remember what it's called whenever it changes, but right now it shows peak performance capability. And this is what I was talking about earlier. Right now, my phone's battery is healthy enough that it has enough available charge at any given time to do all of the high power processing tasks that it needs to do. But if your phone battery starts to age and you don't really want to get it replaced, you can go ahead and essentially say, hey, you know what? I'm okay with things not working exactly how I want them to. I may run into shutdowns if I have, or I want to keep from having the phone shut down because it's running into issues, etc. And so that's what that's what that setting will do. Essentially, while it's on, it may result in some loss of performance, but it will keep the phone from shutting down and having other issues like that. Now, Apple does let you disable that if you want to, which means that you will run into shutdowns. You will have those issues. But since mine is still well within the healthy range, there's no setting to turn that on and off. And then the last one is a really cool thing that Apple has slowly rolled out to a lot of its devices. It came to the AirPods Pro. I'm not sure if it's on the AirPods, but it's definitely on the AirPods Pro. It's on iPhone. I believe it's on iPad. And essentially what this optimized battery charging feature does is it is just being smart about the way that batteries age over time and how charging affects a battery. Because there are all these things you have to consider. There's heat, there's how much electricity is sort of provided and when. And so what this does is it kind of gets an understanding of how you use your device over time and when you charge it, when you don't. And it charges to 80% of the full capacity of the battery and then waits until it's about time for you to, based on its understanding of your behavior, it waits until you get to a point of time where you plan on picking up the device, and then it makes sure to charge it to that full percentage of whatever's left over. So this helps with battery age because charging all the way up and leaving it there is not as good for the health of the battery as charging it to 80% and then doing that charge later. And then also, because of the way that this works, they can slow down on the charge, especially if it's using kind of an overnight charging feature. So for me, most of the time I just charge my phone once a day. I put it on the MagSafe charger that I have next to my bed. And so throughout the day I'm using it, I pop it on there, and then it slowly charges to 80% throughout the night, keeping in mind the battery health. And then it knows, 6 a.m. or so that it needs to make sure that the rest of the battery is charged up to full capacity, so that when I pick it up at 7:30, it's good to go. So those kinds of things can help you with the current phone that you have. But it is always nice to pop open a new phone and go, ooh, 100%. Who is she?
That's where I like to be.
Exactly. All right, let's move on to talk about backing up your device, because this is kind of there are different ways to go about backing up a device. And I do want to talk about some kind of third-party apps if you have them for photos and things like that, but also first-party apps and or first-party solutions and how we go about doing that. Because one of the first things you want to do is back up your device when you are thinking about making a switch to a new iPhone. So tell me, Dan Morin, what is your method of backing up? Because you can back up to iCloud, you can back up to your Mac, you can back up to a PC, and then there are some other kind of third-party options that are out there.
Yeah, I have been a long-time iCloud backup user, and I think for me the reason that is because it's so convenient. So using iCloud Backup, which you can activate in your iCloud settings, essentially says every night when you charge your phone, as we were just discussing, your phone sort of backs up to iCloud, which is stored on Apple servers. And the advantage to that is that you don't have to remember to take it to your computer. You don't have to remember to plug it into your computer. None of that. Just when you're charging, it's going to go right over the network, back up all your data onto Apple servers. And it's just the most convenient and easiest way to do it. It's the way I always recommend. The biggest challenge with it ends up being sort of how much storage you have available in iCloud, which is one reason that Apple's sort of paltry 5 gigabytes that they give you is often a little frustrating, because people end up exceeding that very quickly. I ended up just having to upgrade to the 2 terabyte plan. I finally hit the limit on my 200 gigabytes or whatever it was. So it was time to move up to the next rung. But I have used the Mac backup in the past, and I do occasionally still use it in cases where I'm doing something that's riskier. So, for example, because I'm someone who writes a lot about technology, I install the iOS betas when they come out during the summer, and oftentimes I will use the backup to my Mac feature there to make sure that I have sort of a pristine copy just in case something goes awry and I need to restore from that. But also because if it's still backing up to iCloud when you've got the beta on it and something goes wrong, you're in a lot of trouble. So having that like little safety net is really handy, but I only do that about once a year probably.
Yeah, I tend to do one kind of big backup. The problem that I've run into in the past is that my phone is a pretty honkin' big phone in terms of capacity. And the hard drive on my MacBook is not, is comparable then. Like the phone and the MacBook Pro have pretty similar hard drives in terms of size. And so what I like to use is a third-party application that I've recommended a few times on the show, and we'll actually talk about it again a little bit later. And it's called iMazing, which you can find at imazing.com. It's like amazing, but with an I instead of an A. And with iMazing, what I love about it is it does the two types of backups that you can do, where one is kind of a placement backup, and what am I trying to say? Like a seating chart backup almost, where some of the data is fully backed up, but things like apps, it just kind of says you had this app downloaded, you have this app downloaded, right, and then it will go back and back those up. But then the one that we like to do, as you were talking about, when you're trying to get a pristine copy, is the version that is a full encrypted backup. And with that encryption on there, then Apple will go ahead and let you back up the whole kit and caboodle. And with iMazing, you can actually explore your backup. So you can go in, you can see the different app folders and pull things from those different files. You can back up your messages if you'd like to. You can search through your messages, store your music in different places, access your photos. I mean, it does everything. It also works if you want to do backups over your local network. So it can connect with your iPhone or iPad or what have you over your local network and let you do automatic backups that way. It has this kind of smart backup feature where it looks at what you've backed up before and then only adds new things. It's got so many different options. It's really cool, all of the stuff that you're able to do with iMazing. And I've actually used iMazing in the past. Occasionally, some apps will leave the App Store because the person will take them down, and they usually stay in the App Store for download for quite some time, but then eventually they disappear from there as well. And iMazing lets you save IPAs, which is not a beer in this case, but is instead the package that the app is kind of stored in, so that you can. I think it's called IPA. Is it IAP?
Yep. Yeah. Okay. It's like iPhone application archive or something like that.
Yeah. And so anyway, you can keep them there and get back to them whenever you want to, which I find really nice. But along with the iCloud Backup, which we can go together, we launch settings, we choose Apple ID, iCloud, we choose iCloud again, we choose iCloud Backup, and then we want to make sure that iCloud Backup is turned on. That will make sure that it automatically backs up your data. Then you have the option, if you would like to back up over cellular, which for me, I hardly ever use my cellular connection. Most of the time I am connected to Wi-Fi. So I have that turned on because the occasional time whenever it's backing up over cellular, it doesn't take much, but you may not want to do that. That's just something you should know. Don't look at the screen and go, yep. That's what Mikah did, just in case you might not want that turned on. And then last but not least is this feature, which right here it's showing last successful backup yesterday at 7:06 p.m. So it backed up my phone, or it finished backing up my phone last night at 7 p.m. If I wanted to, I could tap this backup now button, and what it would do is begin a backup. So what I like to do is right before I am making a change, maybe getting a new iPhone, any of those kinds of things, I'll go ahead and tap that button and say, yeah, it's time. Let's go ahead and back this up. I want to make sure that it's good to go. Let that complete and then make a go for it. And then it's also a good way to just make sure that you are ready to roll for your next one. We've got a lot more to talk about, but I do want to take a quick break today so that I can tell you about Blockfy, who are bringing you this episode of iOS Today. Look, whether you're a crypto pro or a total beginner, you can finally earn Bitcoin the easy way. This is so exciting. With the world's first Bitcoin rewards credit card from Blockfy, you can earn unlimited Bitcoin on every qualifying purchase you make. Introducing the Blockfy Rewards Visa Signature Card. It's the easiest way to get Bitcoin by just making everyday purchases. So I love this because this is the idea of like, you know what? I think Bitcoin's kind of cool. I wouldn't mind giving it a go, but I don't really know how to do it. I don't want to just like buy it. This is sort of, hey, you're just getting little extra tosses of Bitcoin that you get to experiment with. So fun as you're making your everyday purchases. You can grow your Bitcoin portfolio when you buy your groceries, when you pay your bills, when you fill up at the gas station, or when, like me, you're paying, I don't know, for parking in the city. Any of these things, you could grow your Bitcoin portfolio with that. You can earn 1.5% back in Bitcoin on all qualifying purchases. And folks, there's no reward limits. Plus, there's no annual fee and no foreign transaction fees. This is a great credit card just on its own. Just Bitcoin earned on every single qualifying purchase. Now is the time to start or ramp up your Bitcoin portfolio. In fact, Bitcoin saw a 230% annualized return in 2020. In fact, Bitcoin was the best performing asset of the last decade, outperforming the NASDAQ 100 by 10 times. That's according to Yahoo Finance. Blockfy is a leader in crypto and was named to Forbes FinTech 50 list in 2021. Plus, Blockfy is the easiest place to sell, buy, and earn crypto. There's no better time to sign up and start earning Bitcoin today. Right now, our listeners can get a bonus of $25, yes, $25 in crypto after you make your first purchase with the credit card when you sign up at this address, blockfi.com/iOS. You need to head there. That's a $25 bonus in crypto deposited right in your account after you make your first purchase. But you have to use our URL, blockfi.com/iOS. Start earning Bitcoin back on all your qualifying purchases today at blockfi.com/iOS. I got a few terms and conditions for you here. Not all will be eligible. Geographic, regulatory, and underwriting restrictions do apply. Fees and terms are subject to change. Additional terms of service at blockfi.com. And Blockfy is a financial technology company with banking service provided by Evolve Bank and Trust, member FDIC. Thank you so much, Blockfy, for sponsoring this week's episode of iOS Today. Go out, get some Bitcoin, and start experimenting. Thank you. All right, we are back. Someone in the chat was talking about two-factor authentication, and it reminded me, Dan, some people might want to sell their iPhone. And we should definitely talk about that process because it is a little bit different. There are some rules that you want to follow to make sure that your phone is ready to go because I don't remember which iPhone launch it was or iOS launch it was, but at some point Apple introduced this great technology called Activation Lock. And Activation Lock is a way to tie your device to your Apple ID such that if your device was ever stolen and reset, you would still need to log in with your Apple ID in order to use the device. Otherwise, it's just kind of a pretty brick. And this technology, as the bane of thieves everywhere, is also sometimes the bane. Oh, we didn't do the voice. Is sometimes the bane of third-party.
Sorry, I was being very serious about it. I didn't want to interrupt.
Of third-party resellers who, you very rightly want to turn in your device. They end up having to send it back and say you didn't do the thing you were supposed to do. So let's talk a little bit about that before we go into it, because right now I could launch the Settings app. I could tap on General. And I could scroll all the way down to the bottom and choose Transfer or Reset iPhone. And then going into that process, I can choose Erase All Content and Settings. And then it'll bug me and say, are you sure you want to do this? Are you really sure? I tap it again and go through that process. For folks who are watching now, I am running iOS 15, and so this top screen probably doesn't look familiar to you. It says prepare for new iPhone. This is a pretty cool thing that I'm looking forward to testing because I didn't know this was here for iOS 15. So we'll be talking about that when iOS 15 officially launches. But anyway, tap on that, and then it would erase the iPhone. But what it wouldn't do is turn off that activation lock feature. So in fact, you want to start by logging out of your iCloud account on the phone or iPad or whatever device you have that you're using. And you do that by tapping at the top on your banner and then scrolling all the way down to the bottom and choosing Sign Out. And then it will ask if you want to sign out. I believe most times it'll actually prompt you to type in a password to make sure that you want to do that to sign out. And then at that point, if you erase all the content, etc., on the device, it will undo activation lock on the device, and you'll be good to go there. So this is the way that you want to get the phone prepared for resale. If you want to use one of those third-party services like Gazelle, who I believe has been a sponsor of the network in the past, and some of the other ones that are out there. There used to be one called Orchard. I don't know if it's still around, but yeah, you need to make sure that the phone is able to be reset completely without your activation lock tied to it. So that is the way to go about that to make sure that it's good to go. But there was one other thing that I wanted to talk about kind of with the first part of the show, and that is that Apple may announce an Apple Watch. And a lot of folks have concerns with their Apple Watch. Reasonably, they have concerns with their Apple Watch because they are worried that they might lose their streaks. They might lose, the number of circles they've closed, all of that activity that's available. And so Apple, I think in the past, didn't do a very good job of explaining how backups work with the Apple Watch versus other devices. And so they've come out with a page that kind of talks about this. Should you get a new Apple Watch and you want to move your watch over to the new one, what that involves. And so one thing that I want to read here is when you unpair your Apple Watch from your iPhone, the watch is backed up completely to your iPhone to make sure the latest data is saved. You can use the backed up Apple Watch data on your iPhone if you ever need to restore your Apple Watch or when you set up a new Apple Watch. So now, going through that unpair process actually saves a backup of your Apple Watch on your iPhone. So that means that where before you might have been worried, oh, what happens if I set up a new Apple Watch and I unpair the last one and it says it's going to unpair and erase the watch? Does that mean that everything's gone? The phone goes ahead and saves a backup of that for you. And then also, Dan and I talked about those iCloud backups earlier today. Those iCloud backups are saving you the data from your Apple Watch so that if you set up a new iPhone or you restore it from a backup, when you get your new iPhone, it can connect to the old Apple Watch that you have using that backed up data. It talks about what your Apple Watch backup includes and what it doesn't include. So it's not going to save Bluetooth pairings. So if you set up a new Apple Watch and you get that backup downloaded, you will have to repair to the different Bluetooth devices that you've had. Of course, it doesn't save credit or debit cards via Apple Pay, so you will have to reset up that. The passcode for your Apple Watch as well is not saved, so you will need to create a new one, which makes sense. And then last is messages, because those are stored in iCloud via your iPhone. Unless you're just using the Apple Watch, in which case you would need to have iCloud syncing turned on for messages, in which case then it would save to the cloud as a separate thing versus directly from your Apple Watch. So basically all of that's to say, Apple has done a good job of improving upon that backup, where I can remember working at iMore and writing or having, someone was writing several articles about people struggling with their Apple Watch backups and having them not work with their new watches or their new phones, or having that data not show up as they expected it to. So that can be a bit of a pill as you're trying to go through that. And then it's also worth mentioning that you also need to do the same log out with the Apple Watch that you do on the iPhone if you want to avoid activation lock. So it's all kind of with that, you need to make sure that you've got all of your ducks in a row before you go setting up a new Apple Watch or a new iPhone. I'm curious, Dan, have you run into any issues in the past when you've upgraded to a new Apple Watch, or know of any situations where that's been the case? Because it definitely was a common thing that I heard.
It is definitely very picky about the order in which you do things. I would say Apple has improved things a little bit in walking you through if you're transferring to a new iPhone. They start to sort of spell out the steps better. But I was actually with a friend just yesterday who was saying she was really annoyed because she bought a new Apple Watch last year and it didn't keep all her fitness streaks when she moved over to it, which is, I know. It was I think it might have been a phone, actually, not a watch. But still, like it is, I've heard of a couple cases where this has happened. And sometimes it's just things got done in the wrong order, or something went wrong. And depending on the age of the original Apple Watch, that's also sometimes there were some issues I know early on with that as well. I think things have improved a lot, but it is still important to sort of as you walk through that process of transferring to a new device, make sure you follow the on-screen instructions. If you're confused, you can always go and look stuff up at apple.com and sort of see how things are supposed to go. Because the last thing, obviously, you want to do is, tap on something and then realize, oh, no, that was the wrong thing. I didn't want to disable that, or I didn't want to ignore that. And I think it especially gets tricky if you run into a situation where you're transferring to, say, both a new phone and a new watch. Mm-hmm. That is definitely one where it gets a little thorny in terms of the order of operations. Which will I bound back up first? What do I want to set up first? So it's definitely worth following the instructions that Apple lays out and making sure that you understand all the steps that it's going to take.
Yes, and now I wonder if that's why Apple doesn't release the Apple Watch and the iPhone at the same time. They're like, if you have them at the same time, then you're going to run into that issue. We've got some chat in the chat. Yes, some talk in the Discord chat. Captain Jack said, I just had to replace my iPhone because the screen got cracked. I learned the hard way. Make sure you have your recovery numbers for your two-factor authentication apps because I'm locked out of work products trying to get them to reset my two-factor authentication. My company hasn't figured out that having tech support behind a login wall doesn't work when you've lost your ability to log in, and they don't have a phone number for tech support. Captain Jack's screen was damaged so badly that they couldn't open their old phone, so they weren't able to use it because the digitizer wouldn't work anymore. Yeah, that's a scary one. If you're,
I will say, two-factor authentication. I really recommend a product like Authy. In particular, is one that I use for most two-factor authentication. Doesn't work with every single setup. But what's great about Authy is that it does let you sort of encrypt and transfer your two-factor authentication codes over. And in fact, if you have multiple devices, you can even sync between the devices. So you can have a copy on your iPad. And if I will say one of the nice things is M1 Max, if you've got a Mac running on Apple Silicon, it can run the iOS version of Authy, which means it can sync with those as well. And it works pretty well. So I used to remember having to go through that whole process of setting up an entire new set of authentication codes for like the 30 services I have that use it. And it was just so frustrating and time consuming. And Authy is one solution that made that a lot better. So I highly recommend that if you're worried about transferring your 2FA codes. Like I said, it doesn't work for every single service out there, but it works for a lot of them.
Yes, against good advice from Leo Laporte, I do. My password manager is also my OTA manager. I use 1Password for both, but what I like about that is that I can open that up on any device or just in a browser, and then I've got my two-factor codes. But there are some, for some reason, that I use Authy too. There's some where maybe they didn't have a QR code at the time or something, or Authy, it just was like, oh, press this button and you're done. And so I went, oh, convenience. And now I'm kind of annoyed because I don't use Authy that much. So every once in a while I'm like, I got to go grab my phone to log in. Usually it's for Dan Morin and I do a show called Total Party Kill. It's a Dungeons and Dragons actual play podcast. And when I have to log into one of the systems,
it's Twitch, isn't it?
Yes,
is my guess.
The Twitch login.
I know they have a specific way of doing it.
D&D Beyond. With Twitch, I have to get the Authy code instead of just using.
Pro tip, Mikah, you can switch that to sign in with Apple.
Oh, that's what I should do. That's much easier. There you go. Look, we're learning new things here today. I believe it is time for us to take another break here really quick so I can tell you that this podcast is supported by AT&T. If there are friends and family members you haven't talked to in a while, don't worry, because it's never too late to reconnect. To help, AT&T is offering deals on the latest smartphones. It's not complicated. Everyone deserves something new. So AT&T is giving new and existing customers their best deals on every smartphone, even the latest ones. Restrictions and exceptions may apply. Visit att.com for details. All right, folks, we are back from the break, and now it's time to talk about our iPhone event predictions. I'm sure you've heard a lot of folks predicting things. The event is just under an hour away, and so it's time to lock in your predictions. Dan Morin, what are we going to see at Apple's September event, California Streaming?
California streaming. Well, I hope there's some sort of streaming component. I don't know what that is, or maybe Tim Cook is going to surf in on a board. I think, it seems pretty much a lock at this point that the iPhone 13 series is going to make an appearance. People are expecting it to look a lot like the iPhone 12, both in sort of design and in terms of how that lineup is arrayed, right? You're going to have a mini version. You're going to have a couple sort of main versions that are the same size, a basic iPhone 13 and then an iPhone 13 Pro with probably some additional features, as well as a honkin' big iPhone 13 Pro Max. There are a lot of questions. It's about sort of what the big attraction is going to be this year. One of the most recent rumors banding about are these sort of the Pro Motion feature, which has been on the iPad Pro for some time, which sort of allows for variable refresh rates. So essentially smoother scrolling, smoother animation, the ability to adapt to the refresh rate of whatever content's on the screen. But one thing that's come up recently, just in the last couple of days, is people talking about the possibility that these iPhones with these technologies might be able to have an always-on screen, similar to sort of the way the Apple Watch Series 5 and later have featured that ability to sort of like, even when you're not looking at the screen, it can display some information just in sort of a very low refresh rate, low power sort of mode. So that's one thing going around for the iPhone 13. Another has been this rumor of satellite connectivity, which would essentially be an emergency function. So if you're someplace where you can't get a cell signal, if you're out on a hike and you're at the top of a mountain, if you're on a boat somewhere in the ocean and you can't get a cell phone signal and you have an emergency, this feature may let you tap into sort of low Earth orbit satellites and send a message, but only as an emergency, not for you to sort of hang out and check Twitter. So I think those are sort of the two big things that have been floating around. I'm sure there's going to be a lot more. Better cameras seems like a lock. Obviously, looking at the A15 processor that will probably power all these things, and which will sort of set the roadmap for Apple for a lot of its products for the rest of the year. And then, of course, there's an Apple Watch, too, probably coming, a Series 7. And that one's got a rumor of a redesign with sort of that flat edge look that the new iPhones and newer iPads have, as well as possibly a slightly larger screen size, which could be a nice improvement, especially for me. I've only got a Series 4, so I'm several years behind the curve now.
Oh, yeah. Time to zoom out, I guess. It's like pinch out.
Right. Well, yeah, exactly. I'll pinch out, zoom in. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yes, I think all of that is kind of most of my prediction. I wonder about AirPods, if we're gonna see AirPods standard, but I'm just eagerly awaiting some AirPods Pro because mine are out of warranty now and are having the clicky whistle woohoo issue, as I call it. That's actually the official name, the clicky.
Yep.
Yeah. Anyway, so I've had that happen to me like 3 or 4 times now. And even though they're out of warranty, I should be clear, even though they're out of warranty, I could send them in and get them replaced. But where while they were in warranty, they would just send me one that was working, and then I sent the one to them that was broken, and then they took the charge off of my card. Now, because it's out of warranty, the only way I can get them replaced is if I take them in and give them over before I can get them back. And I use them all the time. Now I just use them with the noise cancellation features turned off, because it's only when you use transparency mode or noise cancellation mode. Yeah. And so I'm not willing to not have them for the period of time that it would require. So they just are, they don't work like they used to. And so I'd like to see a new version that hopefully has the clicky whirling woohoo issue fixed that a lot of people have complained about. So I'm hoping that they've ironed this out and figured out what's going on there, and that we don't have to worry about it anymore. We shall see. But again, very soon we'll be looking at that iPhone event, and as we said, we can definitely count on some iPhones. It'll be interesting. I really liked this year's augmented reality Easter egg that they featured, and I wonder if they'll take some time talking about AR on stage, because we know that Apple has plans for VR, AR stuff, and apparently it's just around the corner. There was a story...
As it has been for the last 5 years.
Exactly.
It's always just around the corner.
This is very true. I'll include a link here in the show notes. There was a story just this morning that was published in 9to5Mac, I think originally from The Information, perhaps, but it talks about that Apple is testing a 3,000 DPI display, not 300 DPI, 3,000 DPI display for this. That would be wild.
It's a lot of DPI.
There are quite a few dots in those. Is that a deep? What is it?
Yeah, dots per inch.
Dots per inch. Yeah. Okay, cool. I was thinking pixel for the P, and I'm like, that doesn't make sense. Pixel what? Yeah, that's quite a few dots in each inch of display. But that would be good, because that's one of the, I suppose, complaints that I continue to have about VR headsets of now, is that those things are so close to your eyes that you do see the difference between the pixels, and then it does kind of reduce realism. But a 3000 DPI display sounds like a very expensive display.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect to go for a song. So we'll see. I mean, the rumors on those have been that they'll sort of pilot something that's maybe a little more restricted in its use, aimed at developers or people trying to do certain things before it sort of rolls around to a more broad consumer release. And I still don't know. The VR thing interests me because I'm not sure what Apple thinks VR is for. I can understand they've talked a lot about AR especially, and I think they have a good handle on what the idea of that would be, even if they don't have the hardware for it. But VR seems like something that maybe they're just, I don't know, it's still a little buzzwordy for Apple. So I would be intrigued to see something from that. And I agree with you. The rumors have becoming more and more about this stuff being closer and closer. So yeah, we'll see. Maybe they'll show something off as like a very early prototype.
Aha! Like they did with what was the last time they
did the watch? They did the watch pretty early when they did the watch, because they showed it off about 6 months before it actually came out. And of course, they did that with both the phone and then to a lesser degree the iPad as well when it first debuted, because they like to get people excited about it and give people a chance to sort of imagine using it and get developers on board before they actually go ahead and release a product.
Didn't the Trash Can Mac, didn't they do the same thing?
The Trash Can Mac also came out very early. That was probably because they couldn't make it in the time they had. But yeah.
Like, look at this weird cylinder. You're going to love it. Bye. All right. Well, that brings us to the end of the sort of predictions we have. So we've got a few feedback and questions before we round things out with our app caps. The first bit of feedback comes from Peter, who writes in, "Hi, Rosemary and Mikah." Sorry, Dan's here today. Hi, Dan and Mikah. Enjoyed your recent podcast on the Parcel tracking apps. I've been using Parcel for a number of years myself and have found the developer, Ivan Pavlov, extremely supportive if you have any issues. He also is very supportive of his apps and is constantly working to improve them. I've noticed that recent issues with the Amazon integration now appear to have been solved, at least for me anyway. So thank you for telling me that, Peter, because for folks who had tuned in, then you heard me talk about this, but I had talked about how I moved back to Deliveries because Parcel was giving me some issues. I have used Deliveries for years. I switched to Parcel temporarily because Rosemary told me about a really cool Amazon integration where it would automatically pull in your Amazon purchases. Very cool. Unfortunately, it didn't work very well for me, and so Peter's kind of giving us an update there. Peter also says, thought I'd mention a personal finance app he also produces called Debit and Credit. This is well worth looking at too, and should be considered for inclusion if you decided to look at personal finance apps in a future podcast. Keep up the great work. I look forward to each episode. Regards, Peter. Peter, I have to tell you, I am a huge fan of Debit and Credit. Debit and Credit is this great app. If you are like, there are all these fancy schmancy apps where you can log in to all of your financial information and give these companies all of your data and let them track what you're buying. I'm talking about like Mint and stuff like that. I personally don't want that. And when it came to sort of my financial situation, I was not interested in like I didn't want to take the time. It's like, it takes so much work to go through and figure out a budget exactly how it needs to be. And, you do this and you do that. I just wanted an app that let me track my expenditures and take that from an amount that I give, that I had. So like you say, this is the amount of my expendable income, and this is these are the purchases that I've made since then. And then it just subtracts from that value. And then you can change that value back to whatever you need to, or you can actually set it so that it adds money based on when you are scheduled to receive money, for your paycheck or what have you. What's cool about it is that it works as a very involved app if you want it to. It's got graphs and charts, and it's got all sorts of budgeting options that you can do. But if you just want something super simple where you're going, I've got this amount of money that I can spend, and I just want to keep track of the purchases that I've made since then and know how much I have, it's a great way to do that. So it can be simple or it can be very complex. And what I love about it is that it is not about, in fact, as they say on their website, privacy is a priority because it doesn't ask you to create an account. You're not being tracked by your purchases and things like that because it's just a thing that's stored for you on your device. And I believe it does iCloud syncing, so you can have it on multiple devices. So I love Debit and Credit. I think it's great. And Ivan Pavlov, who makes this, and Parcel, a really good developer who, yes, definitely keeps an eye on their apps and makes sure that they are, up to date. All right, the next bit of feedback questions comes from Mike. Mike writes in and says, I have tried everything to transfer from my iPhone 11 to my Windows 10 via a cable. Can you help me? Well, Mike, this is a little bit vague of a question, so I don't know exactly what you want to transfer from your iPhone to your Windows machine. Some things are not able to be transferred depending on what they are. I don't know if you're looking to transfer music or apps, or if you want to do a backup of your device or whatever it might be, but there are a couple of things that you can do. One is we've included earlier on in the show, as we talked about it, a link to a support article that talks about how to back up your iPhone, iPad, or iPod Touch with iTunes on your PC. So you can download iTunes from the Windows Store. I believe it's in the Windows Store. Regardless, there is a link for you to download it to your Windows 10 machine and use that to back up your device and pull certain data from it. However, if you're looking for a more involved solution, I promise that I'd be talking about iMazing again. You should check out iMazing. There is a free trial of the app, so you can give it a go, but it's available on macOS, It's available on Windows, so you can download this and give it a go on your Windows machine, trying to pull data off of your iPhone. The cool thing is that with iMazing, you can do a full and complete backup, and then using the backup extractor tool that they have, that will let you pull individual things from your backup that you might not be able to get just by using iTunes. So give that a try, and honestly, it's $49.99 for 3 devices, for a purchase of 3 devices. And that will give you, that's a one-time purchase, or you can pay $45 a year for unlimited devices, and then you've got the annual subscription. But at $4.99, and I guess it does have all the way down to $34.99 for a single device if you want. But it's well worth that cost. I use iMazing all the time for my sort of full-featured backups, particularly when I don't even think I failed to mention earlier, the whole reason why I was talking about iMazing at the time was because, and maybe I did, but I just don't recall saying it, iMazing lets you change where your backup is saved. So I had talked about how my MacBook Pro doesn't have a whole lot of storage. I should say this one does. The one I was using before did not. And so I couldn't just do a backup directly on my device. I needed to save to my network attached storage. With iMazing, you can save to your network attached storage very easily and then keep that backup there and access it as you need to. Or if you want to plug in a hard drive, you can save it to that. So iMazing is really good at that as well. All right. That brings us to the end of that segment, which means up next we've got our app caps. Alrighty, folks, it is time for our app caps. This is the part of the show where we wear hats atop our head or caps atop our head to honor our app picks of the week. These are the apps, maybe they're apps that have been around for a long time that we love and we just want to share with you, or they're new apps that we think you should check out. And so these caps we doff these caps to say huzzah to our app picks of the week. Dan Morin, tell us about the brilliant cap atop your head, and then tell us about your app pick of the week.
Trying to get my cap to a jaunty angle here, Mikah. It's my captain's hat.
I love it.
There we go. Oh, there's a little gold braid there. If you can see, it's not exactly headphone compatible, I will say, just in case you were worried or thinking about going out and getting one. You might want to opt for one that's works with your headphones. But it's very lovely. It's got a gold braid. It's a white with a little anchor and some stuff on it. So there you go. It's a lovely cap, I think.
Indeed.
now you suppose you want to know about an app too, just on top of that, right?
I know, right? It's a lot to ask.
All right, demanding, so demanding. Well, my app pick is an app called Streaks, which I recently grabbed. Streaks is a very handy application that basically lets you track any sort of habit or thing that you need to do every day. So, for example, I have for physical therapy, I have like shoulder exercises I need to do, and I need to, make sure that I do them every day. And sometimes I forget, or I get busy or caught up with what's going on in the day. And some days you just need a little extra bit of motivation to think like, well, God, I don't really want to go do this right now. It's going to take me a lot of time. And you think, but I need to complete my streak. And so when you mark stuff off, it sort of does a little animation, gives you a little circle closing, and moreover, tracks how many days in a row you've actually done this streak. So you get that sort of a little bit of a, like a serotonin hit or something from the sort of, I've closed my ring, I've got my streak. So what I like about Streaks is it's super configurable. You can choose which days of the week you want to do. So if you have something that you only do, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, you can put it on there. It integrates with a whole bunch of other stuff. So I've also been trying to drink a lot more water. And so you can actually basically have a thing where it ties into the health app. And so I have another app that tracks water usage. And when I track stuff there, because it uses the centralized health app on iOS, Streaks can just read that. And I don't have to manually go in and tell Streaks also that I've been drinking my water. It already knows, which is super convenient. It's got a watch app, all the stuff. You can look at statistics, all sorts of really great tie-in stuff. So I've really been enjoying that for a variety of things, not just physical therapy, but also I want to make sure I do my crossword every day. And so Streaks lets me keep track of that as well. So yeah, it's incredibly powerful, incredibly variable. You can configure it any way you want. It's a good looking little app. I really like it.
I think Streaks is fantastic. How much is it in the App Store?
I believe it's $5, but it's a one-time thing. So you just pay for it and you're good to go. And I think that's a pretty good deal. I like actually apps that I can pay for once and then I'll have to worry about again.
Yes. It's what I love the design of the app. It's fun to jump into. It's fun to go in there and use it and say, yes, I did not smoke today. That's one of the options that they give on the screen. I did brush my teeth. I did eat a healthy meal. And then the integrations that tie in with Apple's Health app is really nice. Paired with the Apple Watch version, as you mentioned there, with all of the features that are there, the different complications. So you can really keep that streak going no matter what device you're on. And then it's just really beautiful. It's simple. It's beautiful.
Looking app.
You
got lots of colors, lots of icons. Love it.
A lot of fun. All right. The cap atop my head is a Red Hat cap. We love the folks at Red Hat. And I believe they're a sponsor of the network through some excellent podcasts. But this was not sent to me via sponsorship. It was given to me by a dear friend. But I love it. And so I'm wearing this today to honor my app cap, which is Deliveries. Yes, I mentioned Deliveries a little bit earlier, but I wanted to talk about Deliveries again because Deliveries is a brilliant app for tracking your packages, particularly in the United States. It's available 99 cents a month, $4.99 a year, and by paying for that, you're helping keep the June cloud servers running and rolling to track packages and to keep track of things. Now, why am I talking about Deliveries again, even though Deliveries, we just mentioned it with Rosemary? Well, that's because Deliveries just got a big update. It's a kind of behind the scenes update, but I wanted to talk about it because, again, these are things where when you see these changes happen, even if they're behind the scenes and not super flashy, you go, oh, thank goodness. So some of these things are like some bug fixes where making the Deliveries tracking information pop up as it should. If you've copied multiple tracking numbers to your clipboard, Deliveries will actually recognize multiple numbers and pop them into the Deliveries app for you. Improvements to, and good God, outside of the US, I'm sure DHL is great, but anytime I've ever had a package that says it's coming from DHL, I'm like, well, I might as well order another one because it's not coming. But DHL has been fixed. The not DHL itself, sadly. I wish Deliveries could fix that. But tracking DHL shipments has been fixed in this new version with more, because there's DHL Express, there's DHL e-commerce, DHL Global Mail, and so it can kind of track all of those together. It also has better information about maps. So I've talked before about how you can track a package's journey through where it came from to where it's going, which is kind of nice. And this is really helpful with iPhone tracking numbers. You pop those in and you can start to see as your iPhone's coming overseas. Better use of detecting DHL, USPS, and Swiss Post packages. Better ability to import from UPS. I love that this integrates with my calendar. So I actually have a specific Deliveries calendar. And that way, when I launch my calendar, I can look on there and see, oh, that package is supposed to come today, or that package I sent is supposed to be delivered to this person at this time. And so I'm always kind of aware of that. And then I'll tap the plus button in the top right corner and show the import options, because you can import from a website, Amazon, Apple's website, FedEx, and UPS directly. So if I tap on Amazon here, I think I've already logged in. So you can see that these are some upcoming deliveries that I have. I can tap in the top right corner, add 10, and then I can choose these different ones that I want. So if I just want one specific delivery, I can do that. I can choose to add multiple deliveries, and then I select the ones that I want. And then the last one is just to create a placeholder or manually add the delivery. So in this case, I want to make sure that I know that my extra virgin olive oil is coming. I've got the name. I can choose save, and then it pops it in and lets me know that it's on its way and that it is going to be 14 days from now. And what just happened? On my Mac, I just got a notification also saying, hey, this package is on its way and will be delivered. So I love that it's available across different platforms, and that you can always make sure that you're kind of tracking as you want to across the different platforms. It's got a great widget for macOS that I have in my little widget thing, and then also for iOS, so you can keep a widget there. And then the app for the Apple Watch is good as well. And then it has cute little iMessage stickers if you want those. So you can peel and stick little cute packages that smile at things. So this is a fantastic, fantastic app. Again, Parcel is great, and particularly for people outside of the U.S., it seems to work well. But if you're in the U.S. or you live in a place that doesn't have some of the more obscure within the U.S. Packaging delivery services, Deliveries is just it's aces. I've used it now, I don't know, for years and years. I think I would have downloaded it when I got my first iPhone in 2011. Yeah, so I've had it for a long time, and it continues to be, wow, I'm old. It continues to be pretty great. 99 cents a month, $4.99 a year. It is a great one to check out. Okay, folks, I believe we have reached near the end of this episode of iOS Today. I do want to tell you that you can give us feedback, send us questions, and get in your Shortcuts Corner requests by emailing us, iostoday@twit.tv. That's the best way to get in touch, or you could tweet with the hashtag AskIOSToday, or hit us up in the Discord. That's also good. It's a great thing to tune in and watch live. The show typically records at 9 a.m. Pacific on Tuesdays. Today, we started a little early. But honestly, we think the best way to get the show is by subscribing to the show, which you can do by going to twit.tv/iOS, where you can subscribe to the show in all of its various forms: Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Pocket Casts, Spotify, YouTube, in audio and video. We think the video form is the best way to get it, but we do try to be aware that some of you tune in via audio, and we appreciate you. And speaking of the Discord, I should mention Club TWiT. If you want all of our shows ad-free, well, check out Club TWiT. For $7 a month, you're going to get every single Twitch show with no ads. You're also going to get access to the exclusive TWiT Plus bonus feed with extra content. In fact, I just, on Friday, recorded an AMA with Aunt Pruitt. Aunt Pruitt hosted it. He asked the questions. I answered the questions. It was a lot of fun. That's only available to Club TWiT members, and I'd love for you to check it out. We had a lot of fun answering some questions, both tech questions and non-tech questions about dogs, etc. All of that's available for $7 a month. Plus, you get access to the members-only Discord server where you can hang out with all of us here at TWiT. You can chat with your fellow Club Twitters and just have fun, enjoy the show, and hang out with us. So we think you should check that out. It gives you a good warm feeling in your heart for supporting us here at TWiT, and then also it's just a fun place to be, and we appreciate it. All right, Dan Morin, if folks want to find you online and check out your great work, where online should they go to follow you and see all the stuff?
So much stuff, so many places to go. I'm on Twitter at dmoren. I'm also on Instagram at dmoren if you want to look at my great vacation photos. You can find me in a bunch of places, including co-hosting Clockwise with Mikah over at Relay FM, on the tech podcast The Rebound, which you can find at reboundcast.com, or on the Apple Podcasts or your podcast player of choice. Bunch of podcasts over at theincomparable.com as well. And of course, I'm also a science fiction author. I've written 3 books, including my most recent one, The Aleph Extraction, which came out last May. And there's a new one, The Nova Incident, coming out next July. You can find out more about that at dmoren.com, which is my website. Also has links to all those podcasts and all the places I do tech writing as well over at sixcolors.com. So lots of places, more than I can remember.
Just Google Dan Morin, Dan the Man Morin. Now, we thank you for joining us today, of course. I know Rosemary was grateful as well to get you here today, and looking forward to seeing your coverage of Apple's iPhone event. Until next time, folks, this has been iOS Today, and will continue to be iOS Today. Until next time, goodbye.
So you got yourself the brand new latest and greatest iPhone or Samsung smartphone because you heard about all of the beautiful photography those things can create, but for some reason, you're just not quite getting it done when you try to make your photos. Or you got yourself a brand new camera because you were interested in getting started in photography, but your little new inexpensive camera still isn't quite cutting it. Well, you need to check out my show, Hands-On Photography, here on TWiT. I'm going to show you how to be a better photographer and a better post-processor, and quite frankly, just help you get the most out of that new camera that's either on your phone or the brand new one that you just got for your birthday or gifts or what have you, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So head on over to twit.tv/hop, that's twit.tv/HOP, and subscribe today.